Greetings, amazing scholars, and welcome to Learning with Avant-garde Books. I'm Cherie Hardy, and I hope you are well. Today's lesson is going to be about Alice Walker. But before we get started, I would like for you to make sure you're in a very comfortable place, you're relaxed, so that you can learn about the award-winning author, Alice Walker. $3 cash for a pair of catalog shoes was what the midwife charged. Alice Walker wrote about being born on a cotton farm in Eatonton, Georgia. Her parents were sharecroppers, and her mother later became a maid for the farmer's family. Together, they lived on the same land where they worked. The land-owning farmer and his family lived in wealth on the same land where Alice, her 7 siblings, and their parents lived in poverty. Sharecroppers cultivated and produced the landowner's crop, but rarely reaped any profit. The poverty that marked Alice's childhood was one thing, but the discrimination her family experienced because they were black was another. I grew up in the South under segregation, Alice had said, so I know what terrorism feels like. She explained further, when your father could be taken out in the middle of the night and lynched just because he didn't look like he was in an obeying frame of mind when a white person said something he must do. I mean, that's terrorism. Alice's mother cleaned the farmer's house, but she also stood up to him, like she did to everybody else. Once he came to their house and told Alice's mother that her children needed to be out in the fields picking his cotton and working his land. Alice says her mother defied him and replied, "These children are my children and they are going to be educated." Instead of putting her children to work, she put them in school. Alice was enrolled in school when she was 4 years old. The worst thing that happened to Alice as a child occurred when she was 8 years old. While playing with her older brothers, she was injured in a BB gun accident that left her scarred and blind in one eye. Her self-esteem withered and she retreated from other people. Ultimately, though, her injury led to a new passion, reading and writing. Reading introduced her to new ideas and places, and writing was a way to express her feelings. By the time she boarded a bus to Atlanta to attend Spelman College, an HBCU, historically black college or university, she knew what she wanted to do with her life. But something happened on the ride that gave her another life's work. The driver asked her to move from the front of the bus to the back at the request of a white passenger. In that moment, Alice came to believe that she would have to be politically active in order to achieve enough freedom to write. The white bus driver and the passenger could get away with racist behavior because they had a system of injustice behind them. She therefore needed to add social justice work to her vision for her life ahead. After 2.5 years at Spelman, she transferred to Sarah Lawrence College in New York, where she completed her undergraduate studies. She returned to her home state after graduation and joined efforts to register voters in districts where black political participation was being undermined. She also began to teach low-income children in a program called Head Start, which was backed by Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm. The civil rights movement was at a high point, and Alice was an active participant in demonstrations and protests as she began to create a body of literature. Alice was living in Mississippi when she wrote The Third Life of Grange Copeland, her 1970 novel about a sharecropper like her father, and began Meridian, her 1976 novel about a civil rights worker like herself. She brought her life experience and her political worldview to the craft of storytelling. In the late 1960s, Alice added the women's movement to her scope as an activist, and she soon discovered that black women weren't well represented. She felt that the label feminist and the ideas associated with it didn't reflect the experience of black women, and she wrote about it in a 1983 collection of essays called In Search of Our Mother's Gardens. She coined a new term, womanist, to apply to black women and women of color. A womanist, in her words, loves music, loves dance, loves the moon, loves the spirit, loves love and food and roundness. She wrote womanist is to feminist as the color purple to lavender. Alice's nonfiction work established her as a critical thinker and a feminist icon, but it is her fiction that touched people of all backgrounds and earned her the biggest audience and the greatest success. Her 1982 book, The Color Purple, tells the story of Celie, a shy young woman who is abused by her husband, Mr., until she learns more about herself with the help of a few loving friends. The novel is told through letters that Celie writes to God, who she believes is the only one who listens to her, and to her beloved sister, Nettie, a missionary in Africa with whom she's lost contact. The book, both heartbreaking and inspiring, won a Pulitzer-prize, one of the greatest awards in literature. Alice Walker once said, "Part of what any writer does is try to help you see what it is they see. That's really all you can do. You can't make people change if they're not moved to do it. But that's why we have writers, poets, fighters, and dancers." Well, wonderful boys and girls, that concludes our presentation, our lesson on the award-winning writer Alice Walker. Information about Alice Walker's life was taken from a wonderful book called A Black Woman Did That, 42 Boundary-Breaking, Bar-Raising, World-Changing Women. This book was written by Malika Adero and illustrated by Shantae Timothy. Well, if you want a copy, just let us know at avantgardebooks@gmail.com. Thank you for watching and learning with Avant-Garde Books. Don't forget to subscribe to our educational YouTube channel. And by the way, please like this video if you found it informative. Have a beautiful day.